The world called it unsinkable. It was a triumph of engineering designed to master the vast North Atlantic. Yet, less than 3 days into its maiden voyage, it was at the bottom of the ocean. In 1912, this ship represented the absolute peak of wealth and technology. It was built with the finest materials and advanced safety features of the industrial age. This era was defined by a specific kind of confidence. The general consensus was that machines had finally become too large and too sophisticated to be defeated by the elements. The Titanic was a symbol of this mindset. Its scale convinced its owners and the public that humanity was invincible against the sea. But that same confidence meant the crew and designers stopped preparing for a total failure. They built a ship for a world where a catastrophe simply couldn't happen. On the night of April 14th, the ship struck an iceberg, breaching 5 of its 16 supposedly watertight compartments. While the ice was the physical cause, the high death toll was the result of human decisions made on the bridge and in the boardroom. To understand how 1,500 people died on the world's safest ship, we have to look past the collision and trace the specific errors that made the disaster inevitable. These mistakes show how a manageable accident is pushed into a massacre when a system operates with too much certainty and too little caution. The first failures were part of the ship's physical design. The owners made a calculated decision to limit the number of lifeboats available. This chart reveals the gap between souls on board and available seats. 2,200 passengers, but room for only 1,178. Amazingly, this was legal. Regulations were based on ship weight, not passenger count. The owners actually exceeded the requirement, prioritizing luxury deck space over adequate survival capacity. Passengers spent their days walking right past these lifeboats, never realizing that the equipment they saw was mathematically insufficient for the number of people on board. The disaster didn't begin at sea. It began on the drawing board, where the comfort of the passengers was valued more than their survival in an emergency. In the first minutes after the impact, there was no panic. Most passengers didn't feel the collision, and the ship remained level and brightly lit. Because everyone believed the ship was unsinkable, neither the crew nor the passengers took the initial alarm seriously. Many refused to leave their warm cabins for a lifeboat in the middle of the ocean. This delay wasted the most critical hour of the evacuation. By the time the danger was obvious, the ship was already tilting, and the window for an orderly rescue had closed. This is the most dangerous stage of any crisis. While the ship was still stable, the victims lost the only resource they couldn't replace: time. When the lifeboats finally launched, the lack of training became clear. Panic and poor planning led the crew to launch boats half full, leaving hundreds of empty seats that could have saved lives. Once the water reached the upper decks, the end was fast. The ship snapped in two under the weight of the water and disappeared into the Atlantic in under 3 hours. Today, the ship sits 2 miles down, a rusted wreck in a world of total silence. The sinking was a result of 3 forces: a design that lacked capacity, a crew that lacked training, and a leadership that lacked the humility to admit the ship was in danger. More than 1,500 people died in the freezing water that night. The survivors were left to face the consequences of a system they had once trusted completely. These headlines changed maritime law forever. The news of 1,500 deaths made it impossible to continue using outdated safety standards. Regulators finally began requiring enough lifeboats for every person on every ship. These lives were the price paid for a society that prioritized the appearance of safety and luxury over the reality of it. This disaster invites us to look at the massive, complex systems we rely on today. We often assume that because a process is large or sophisticated, it is inherently safe from basic human error. The indicators that something is going wrong usually appear before a catastrophe happens. The question is whether there is anyone looking for them. Are we currently checking the systems we trust, or are we ignoring the signs that they might be failing? The Titanic is a reminder that no system is truly unsinkable if those who operate it believe they are invincible.